Okay, it's right at 9 o'clock. My cell phone's saying 9 o'clock, so we'll be punctual this morning. And good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for attending. I'm glad to see it's a full house today. My name is Scott Carroll. I'm the general manager for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District. And I'm just curious, did people receive an automated phone call over the weekend? Did you get, oh, outstanding, outstanding. That was, some didn't, okay. Well, some did, but some did, which is great. That was the first time we ever did that. It was a new tool we're using to get the message out to the community on new programs like the one that we're proposing to you this morning. The program is an organic recycling program that will slightly change, if it's approved by the board of directors, slightly change the way you throw away your trash, particularly your green waste and your food waste. This is our second workshop. We had one in December, and it was a full house just like this. We're very excited that everyone is very interested in this program. I'm going to switch it up a little bit from last December, where we have two presentations. I went first last time, and then CR&R gave a presentation about their anaerobic digestive facility, which is a new conversion technology. We're going to switch it up today. I'm going to have CR&R go first, and then I'll go second. And if I can ask for your cooperation, if you could just hold off on all the questions till we're done with the presentations, and we'll stay here as long as we have to be to answer all your questions and concerns. So no matter, we'll get to everyone, I promise you. But before we get started, I do want to introduce one of my board of directors here is in the audience, and that's Bob Uten, one of my board of directors. So first off, I also want to introduce CR&R representatives. You got Dean Ruffage is the Senior Vice President. And then Mike Silva is going to be giving the presentation. So in fact, I'll go ahead and introduce Mike, bring Mike back up, and he'll start the presentation. And then when he's done, I'll go into the proposed program. So Mike, why don't you come up here on the podium, and Javier will work the slide for you. So thank you.
A little under the weather today. Can you guys hear me? Because I can't hardly hear myself. Anyways, I've been with CR&R literally since college. So I've been with them over 30 years. And my forte is technology, and solid waste management is from a technology standpoint, not from the collection standpoint. So I'm going to go through very global, how we got here today, basically Trash 101, very similar to discussions I have with a lot of the college kids at USC and UCLA where they asked me to come and guest speak. And then we're going to go into the Anaerobic Digestion project, which is a conversion project that takes organics and makes it into fuel. So an overview of CR&R, obviously you can see a list of the cities that we service throughout Southern California, which is our core market. We really break it up into a couple of geographic areas. You'll see we're very strong in South County and up here in North County. We're now in we just got a couple new contracts. You'll see the city of Avalon, which is over on Catalina. We just started that one July 1st, which was a very interesting contract because obviously all the what do you call it, constraints over there. And then we just also got the contract for Newport Beach, which starts up in a couple, 3 months. And we're in a horse race for Lake Forest. It's down to 2 of us in that one. So we're still growing, and a lot of the stuff is because of what you're going to see today, and we're very entrepreneurial. Okay. So the focus of today's speech is, this is a good quote from one of the professors at Stanford University. So the challenge is supplying energy to a growing population while reducing greenhouse gases, which historically that was kind of an oxymoron. You couldn't do one or the other. This technology does both. Okay? So first I'll give you the evolution of Trash 101. So in the 70s, basically, you recognize the old trash cans and the trash bags, and we just took it to the dump. When I first got in the business, quite candidly, there was no reason to do anything else. The dump was like $5 a ton. You couldn't recycle for that. So almost every single ton of trash collected in the 70s went to the dump. Okay? Then in the 80s, recycling started. CR&R at that point in time was the largest recycler in the country. We processed over 1 million pounds a month. But it still wasn't cost effective. The milk crates was really a request of the citizens. The city of Irvine was one of the first ones, and basically the citizens said, charge us a little extra because we want to recycle, we want to do the right thing. But it still was not cheaper than going to the landfill. So everybody started off with milk crates, and we did a few cities like that. Okay? Then it really exploded in the late 80s, early 90s. A law passed called AB 939, which mandated that we recycle 25% and then 50%. So now you had no choice. So you had to develop the most cost-effective program you could. Excuse me. So we came up with two programs. The program that you guys have been involved with since day one is on the top. That's our facility there. That was the very first solid waste processing facility in the country. What that allowed us to do was take all the rubbish and take it apart and take the recyclables out and the organics. Where that facility was not available, which is like in our Riverside operations in South County, they're on a 3-container system. So really the two Cadillacs is either the 3-container system or the 1-container system at that point in time. Those both got in compliance with AB 939, and that's how most cities have been, oh my gosh, for almost 20 years now. I believe we started with you guys in 91 or 92. You guys are our oldest client on the 1-can system. At that point in time, once you guys got on board, the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, we signed up Newport Beach, Stanton, Buena Park, and La Palma. So those 5 cities have been on the 1-can system the longest. Okay? So now there's 2 or 3 laws coming down the books. The biggest one is probably going to be the ban of organics going to the landfill. So we'll no longer be allowed to take green waste, food waste, anything that's organic to the landfill. There's 2 laws going through the legislature right now. Most likely both will pass. They don't want it to go to the landfill for a couple reasons. One is all the organics in the landfill, they naturally decay and they release methane. The methane is actually 20 times more detrimental than CO2. We heard a lot about carbon dioxide, but methane is a worse offender than that. So they don't want organics to go there anymore. They've already passed that law in all of Europe, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, and I think it'll pass this year in California. So we won't be able to take organics to the landfill at all. So what we've proposed is taking and we're talking to all our cities from that first list, the 1-can system, which really doesn't mean 1 can, it means one stream, goes to a 2-stream system, and the 3-stream system goes to a 2-stream system. So we believe this is going to be the Rolls-Royce going forward. And what this allows us to do is take our 1 can, that's a recycling can, to our materials recovery facility and take it apart. So the recyclables and the residue. The second can, which would be your organic waste, which is probably 97% green waste, maybe 3 to 4% food waste on a poundage basis, allows us to take it to our anaerobic digestion system, which we've just got permitted out in the city of Paris. So in the city of Paris, because to build a facility like this, there's a ton of permits to get. You have to be in the right location. You have to have the financing and things like that. We've been very fortunate. It's the first one permitted in Southern California. We got all our permits from AQMD, the state, the county, and so we're now in the final design stages. And what that does, and I'm going to go through the technology itself, it will basically take the organic waste, convert it into 2 products. Renewable natural gas, just like the gas that comes out of your stove, well, we compress it and put it right into our garbage trucks, and fertilizer on the bottom. The organics are still there. Okay? Go all the way, click it till it stops, yeah. Okay. So basically what this is saying is you're going to have 3 options when these laws pass, and everybody's got to make this decision. Not only Costa Mesa, all of our cities, all of our competitors have to make this decision. So option number 1 is obviously you can stay with a 1-can system, but you won't be able to comply with the laws because we can't get all the organics out as clean as we can if you guys help us separate. Right now, when we get the organics out, there's little bits of glass in there, hearing aid batteries, little plastic caps, things like that that make it difficult for us to process it. In the past, that was acceptable because we could take it to the landfill and they used it as cover on the site, but they're going to not allow us to do that any longer. So now we have to do something better with the green waste. The second option is to stay with the 3-container system, and this again applies to our other cities. This is a general overview of the whole project. They could stay with that, but in the 3-container system, anything that's in that 3rd can doesn't get processed at all. It goes right to the dump. So if people don't do the right participation, we can't have access to that material to recycle it or process it. So obviously we're recommending to all of our cities as we go through this option number 3, which is basically a 2-container system. And part of our sales pitch is the trash can goes away. So you have a recycling can and you have an organics can, and we handle it from there. That's the way we got 100% participation, because you've got 2 containers that's going in one or the other. Everything is processed. Nothing goes directly to the dump. And we believe it minimizes all the cost, environmental, economic, everything. So we think that's the best method, and that's what we're proposing to all of our cities. Okay. So now I'm going to go over the anaerobic digestion system. And again, I'll answer any questions at the end. It's no problem. There's going to be several slides in here about drivers, because people want to do things for different reasons. We're going to be talking about regulatory, economic, environmental. Different people have different reasons they want to do these projects. This is an overview of the artist rendering. Go ahead, that's all right. Go ahead and go to the project overview. Go ahead. So our project is going to convert the yard and food waste into 2 products, renewable natural gas and fertilizer. The natural gas that we're going to make is the exact same thing that comes out of your pipeline. In fact, any excess we will put in the pipeline for let the gas company resell it and move it around the country. The program will keep the city's organic waste out of the landfill, where it would obviously degrade and turn into methane. I can hardly read my slides, I apologize. Over the next 5 to 10 years, most packaging is going to be either recyclable or digestible. Since we've been in the business, the amount of trash, pure trash that's not recyclable, has gone down, down, down. And I'll give you the best example I have is, if you remember when the PET bottle first came out, it had an aluminum cap, had a PET shell, and on the bottom was HDPE. And Coca-Cola and Pepsi were bragging, this is all recyclable. That's not recyclable. You got 3 different products, and we got to take it all apart. Now, if you get that bottle, it's all made out of one plastic. So our industry has been working with manufacturers to continually make their products where we can handle them, we can process them, and get them back to them. So the amount of pure trash is just continually going down, and that's why we're comfortable at this point in time proposing just 2 streams, organic stream and a recycling stream. No trash can per se. You see down here, there's a lot of plastics, and it's kind of an oxymoron to say this, but there's a lot of plastics that are digestible. They make them with a bio-based, instead of, what do you call that? Instead of oil-based, it's bio-based. So there's a lot of stuff that's digestible right now. I told Scott about this the other day. There's a little waffle shop in front of Chapman College. I think it's called Bruxy's. Okay, people know that one. So I'm sitting there having lunch, and the plastic cup, I look at it, and sure enough, it's made with PLA, and it's 100% digestible. So I'm pretty sure most plastics will be digestible in the next few years. From that point, we can put them right into our digester and convert them to renewable natural gas. So that is evolving also. I already mentioned that the methane is actually 20 times more damaging to the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. Okay? Oh. And then on a sales pitch for us, and you'll see the technology, we're the only ones representing this technology in the country. We did research on probably 10 or 15 different technologies, traveled the world. This is the one we picked. It's called Eisenmann. They're out of Germany. They have 90 installations. We'll be the first one in the United States. So CNG, compressed natural gas, is the cleanest burning fossil fuel. There's nearly 10 million vehicles running on CNG worldwide. It's fairly new to the United States, and believe it or not, there's only one manufacturer that makes a CNG car, which is Honda. But over in Europe, every car is dual fuel, most of them over there. Anaerobic digestion really is just replicating what Mother Nature does naturally. As you know, if you left grass out in your backyard, eventually it disappears. It goes into CO2 and back into compost. We're just basically industrializing the process and capturing all those gases. Our process runs 24/7, 365 days a year. Our process is fully automated. Once it goes in, no one touches it. It's all automated until the end of the process. We believe our process gives the maximum flexibility in waste mix. You're going to see the digesters. They're very similar to a sewer treatment plant, where we can take solids, we can take liquids. Liquids would be in, we have some clients that have maybe off-spec milk, or a bad batch of Coca-Cola or beer. That's all organic. We can take all that material and put it into our digester with the green waste. We can also run it mesophilic and thermophilic, and that's just 2 different temperature ranges, but we can run it simultaneously because we have more than one digester. And then also, because ours is completely controlled, we can change the temperature, the residence time. We can even add other chemicals to it if we wanted to make a better fertilizer. No other facility in the United States is going to have our capabilities when we start off. Okay? Our process is fully enclosed. There's 0 untreated emissions. We have the highest conversion rate because ours is dynamic and we're consistently mixing it all the time. The initial plant will handle about 83,000 tons. The plant will generate 1 million gallons of diesel gallon equivalents of renewable natural gas, which we'll put into our own trucks. We already have 3 CNG fueling stations. We have 1 in Paris, 1 in San Juan Capistrano, and 1 in Garden Grove. So we're very familiar with CNG. Run several hundred trucks on CNG already. The net of the 83,000 tons, 65,000 tons will come out as fertilizer. One other neat process out there in Paris, we happen to be about 1 mile away from the sewer treatment plant, so we're going to take their secondary water and use that in our process also. Okay? So this is a good schematic of it. This would be your waste coming in, what we're talking about today, which is green waste, food waste, things like that. Down the road, for lack of a better term, in our industry we call that grease pumpers. The guys that go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's and all that stuff. We can take that. It goes into our digester. It's in here for about 21 days. Inside there is basically just a biological process of bacteria. When the bacteria is all done, out comes the methane and out comes the solids. The solids come this direction, runs through a very basic screw press, and we separate the liquids from the solids. They're both soil amendments. They have different NPK values, different utilization, different purposes, but they're basically fertilizers. And here is methane and CO2 now. That's what's left over. This is also proprietary to CR&R. That's our gas upgrading system. It's a company called Greenlane, and they're out of New Zealand. Very clever technology. There's 3 ways to clean the gas up. Because when the biogas comes out, it's really not useful for anything at this point in time because it's a mixture of CO2 and methane. It's only about 55% methane. Natural gas is about 98%, so we have to get it up to 98%. There's 3 ways to do it. One is with a solvent, one is with a membrane, and one is with water. We selected water because obviously it's the simplest and the least environmentally damaging. So what happens in here is very clever. They take the CO2 and methane and they pressurize it. They run it through water. The CO2 is soluble, so it goes to the water. The methane passes through. Once the methane passes through, we put it in our trucks. Now you got CO2 pressurized in water. What they do on the backside is basically like a bottle of champagne. They just release the pressure and the CO2 goes out and the water goes back in the system. It's very clever. All the emissions from this goes through our biofilter that's on site and nothing's released untreated. So that's really anaerobic digestion 101. Okay. So this is our plant. This is actually artist rendering, but it's on a Google map, so this is the real deal. We have 52 acres out in Paris. This is our transfer station out here, similar to the transfer station we have over here in Stanton. This is going to be the entire project when we're done. This is phase 1. This is actually 4 digesters put together, but it's all in one phase. The material will be dumped in this facility where it's processed and made the right size. It comes across here, goes into these feed hoppers, and goes into the digester. That's the Greenlane system we talked about. That's our control room. Okay. When we're all done, hopefully if we're successful, we'll have 4 phases. So obviously our initial cities, which is our host cities, which are Paris, Stanton, and Costa Mesa. That's who we're soliciting first because that's our host towns. We also have a proposal out for the city of LA, which they are so large, they could actually buy an entire phase just by themselves. The city of LA has so much green waste. But that's the whole project that we'd like to do. This is probably a 5-year plan. This is obviously being built literally today. I mean, we're in the process right now. When that's all done, we'll be able to handle 320,000 tons of of organic waste, and it'll be, oh my gosh, 2 to 3 times larger than any other facility in the world at that point in time. But one thing that's unique about California is our green waste is growing 24/7. You could not build this project in Nebraska. Literally, you can't. People talk about, well, how come they're not doing this? Well, there's a very unique place that it's always growing, and we can always get rid of the fertilizer also. Some places where it's not growing, they have to store the fertilizer because there's not a growing season. Well, ours is 24/7. So that's what our final project will look like. So now I'll go through the various drivers. While composting is better than landfilling, we think it's inferior to anaerobic digestion because it doesn't capture the energy or the emissions. But composting is definitely better than landfilling. You're getting some use for it. Composting is a huge deal up in the Northern California. They do a lot of composting up there. We do some composting. We have 3 small composting facilities now, but nothing of this magnitude. The biogas produced will obviously go right into our own trucks. RNG is the cleanest fuel available. It's even cleaner than CNG because what they call well-to-wheels, which I'm going to show you a slide on that, we have no distribution costs because we're making it locally. Most of your natural gas now is coming from North Dakota or Texas, so there is some cost and some environmental detriment to getting it here. The fuel produced is going to be obviously from your own discarded materials. And the benefits are hopefully fairly easy to communicate. You guys are going to give me feedback on that. Okay, the economic drivers. Costa Mesa is our first city that we've solicited because they were our first city in Stanton originally with a one-can system. So we felt obligated to come to you guys first. With that, there's a couple, 3 things that we've done. First of all, we've offered the most favored nation, so you'll have the lowest price, period, end of sentence on this facility, which we've always had with you on the original facility. Also on the plant, it's cost about $25 million. We got a $5 million grant. We've taken that out of our capital cost and passed that back to the citizens also. We were very fortunate. We've received 4 grants. One for $4.5 million from the California Energy Commission because they want this facility built, and 3 other grants from the Air Quality Management District. One because we're using our own trucks, one because we're using our own filling station, and the other one because we're making renewable natural gas. Some of the other economic benefits, obviously once the plant's in place, we'll control our own fuel costs because we won't be buying it from a fuel company, we'll be buying it from ourselves. And this will also allow you to handle green waste and food waste at the same time. All the composting plants in Orange County cannot take food waste. That's a whole different permit. What happens when you're doing green waste, you have a certain biological breakdown. When you add food waste to it, it goes different, and they make you get a different permit. So right now, no one can take food waste in Orange County. I believe the closest one's in Victorville. Is that right, Dean? Yeah. Okay. So here's some of the regulatory drivers that are coming down the pipe. There's a law called AB 32, which is global warming, which basically talks about emissions, which our trucks are already in compliance with that. It's a cost-effective way to comply with it because we're putting up all the capital. We're taking the risk. AB 341 is now taking the recycling goal from 50% up to 75%. AQMD and CARB, which is California Air Resources Board, excuse me, this is compliant, this fuel is compliant with their specs. Now this is the bigger one that's going on right now, like I mentioned earlier, is the current organic materials ban. Like I said, there's 2 laws going through this legislature this time. I think they'll pass this time. In addition to the ban on organics, they're also going to phase out what they call green waste, which is alternative daily cover. And like the city of LA, they're looking for a solution because they took it upon themselves. They will not allow their green waste to go alternative daily cover any longer, the city of LA. And then it obviously meets the low carbon fuel standard. Now that's a federal law that basically obligates the major oil companies to have a mix. They have to have a low carbon fuel also, so we can comply with that with them. And then there's a lot of zero waste initiatives. The city has one, and Scott's going to go into that. Okay, this is a real interesting slide. This is produced by the Air Resources Board. And basically, it just, it's a scale to compare fuels to each other. And what it does is how much carbon is emitted for every unit of energy consumed. So obviously, clean diesel, you can see it's ranked like a 95. Then you go to CNG, it's probably about a 78. Then you drop all the way down to landfill compressed natural gas. Because the landfills produce methane. So they can do something similar to us, but theirs is much more complex because they're trying to get the methane out of 300 acres and get it back to the same spot. Very difficult problem for them. Now, they've done a good job. In the old days, they used to just flare the methane. Now they try to capture it and make fuel out of it. So theirs is obviously much better than the other two options. But ours actually got ranked -15 because we're avoiding any methane release at all. Our trucks are cleaner, and we have no distribution cost. So we actually have a -15 ranking with the Air Resources Board. And that's the only way you can get there is through anaerobic digestion. So we actually produced this slide for the legislature. They came down and visited us one time, and we're talking about anaerobic digestion, how they talked about the grants and how can they help this happen. And I think this kind of sums it up real well. When the organics go to the landfill, they do a pretty good job now. So they try to capture all the methane they can. There's a huge piping system in all the landfills, and they're sucking 24/7 trying to capture all that methane. They feel they get about 75% of it. That means 25% still gets out. So they capture 75% of that energy, 75% of the emissions, but obviously none of the nutrition because it's still in the landfill. So the grass clippings and food waste is all still in the landfill, so no one gets to utilize that. So a lot of people have gone to composting, including us, some small facilities, where because we're composting, we're not capturing any of the energy. If you're familiar with composting, it's a big farming operation. You lay it out and you have windrow turners, and you just convert it to fertilizer, just like you do in your backyard, but on an industrial scale, acres of it. But we're obviously not capturing the energy, we're not capturing the emissions, because it's just like farming. We do have 100% of the nutrition. This is the way, if you go to Home Depot, that's the way 99% of that stuff in the bags is made. Whether it's cow manure or chicken manure or whatever else, that's how 99% of that stuff. The two big guys in that is Kellogg's and Scott's. So if you go to Home Depot, you'll see that. We believe this is the future. This is where we're going. Because our system's 100% contained and controlled. We're the only option that captures 100% of the energy. We capture 100% of the emissions. And we capture 100% of the nutrients. That's it. I'm going to turn it over to Scott. We're going to do questions at the end when everybody's done. Yeah. It's the end for me, but not the end for you guys. So now Scott's going to talk about how this applies to just Costa Mesa.
All right, thank you, Mike. As you can probably tell, it's very innovative technology. As Mike said, no one else in the country is doing this, and I think we're very honored for them to approach us first to at least give us the opportunity to participate in this program. And so what I'm going to talk about is how we implement this new technology into the way you throw away your trash. And what we're calling it is an organic recycling program. And if we go to the next slide, please. And what I'm going to talk about to you this morning is basically, why are we here? Talk a little bit about the program itself. Obviously, cost is a big factor. I'm sure you all want to know what's this going to cost me. So we'll definitely show you the numbers, and then we'll go and tell you what's the next step. So, please go to the next slide, please. So, the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, along with the board of directors and staff, has been talking about zero waste for about 3 years now, and it all started in 2010 when the board adopted its strategic plan. And one of those goals is goal number 2.5, which means encourages zero waste. Well, so the question comes in, well, what does zero waste mean? Does that mean we're actually going to be throwing away zero waste in a landfill? Go to the next slide, please, Javier. Here's some definitions of what zero waste is, or a discussion of zero waste. And this is from the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. I'm just going to read it verbatim, and it says, Zero waste efforts, just like recycling efforts before, will change the face of solid waste management in the future. Instead of managing waste, we will manage resources and strive to eliminate waste. Next slide, please. And then this is a definition from the Zero Waste International Alliance, which is the nonprofit organization that's dedicated to changing people's behavior and moving towards zero waste. And how they define zero waste is it's a goal that is ethical, economical, efficient, and visionary to guide people in changing their lifestyles and practices to emulate sustainable natural cycles where all discarded materials are designed to become resources for others to use. Next slide, please. Also goes on to say, zero waste means designing and managing products and processes to systematically avoid and eliminate the volume of toxicity of waste and materials, conserve and recover all resources, and not burn or bury them. Next slide, please. So basically what zero waste is it's not about getting to zero, it's about being on a path to zero, and that's what we're proposing to do. Go to the next slide, please. So in 2011, we had about 11 meetings talking about zero waste. We looked at different organizations and what they're doing to achieve zero waste and different strategies. And then we had a couple of meetings. Next slide, please. We had a couple of meetings in 2012, and from there, before the board decided to move any further, we said, well, let's engage with our residents. What do they think about zero waste, and what do they want to? Are they willing to participate in zero waste and increase the diversion? And if you go to the next slide, please. So what we did in 2012, we did a survey, a phone survey, and I have copies of that survey for. Hope you picked that up. The results of the survey. We did a phone survey of 1,000 residents. And the response from those 1,000 residents, over 81% support increasing, diverting trash away from the landfill. We're currently at 54%, actually at 57%. Almost 82% said they're willing to go up, they want to go up to 75%. Now, also the majority of them do say, almost 67% did say that everyone likes a single can system, and we recognize that. I mean, it's very simplistic, it's convenient, you just throw everything away and it gets recycled. It is very easy. What other residents were saying is that they do support protecting the environment, which is the reason for reducing the amount of trash. But of course, there are some people out there which it's just legitimate concerns about the cost, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what is this going to cost me? Go to the next slide, please. Then we asked the residents who said, yeah, I want to divert more. We asked, well, okay, great, because to recycle it does cost more money. And so are you willing to pay a little bit more for that? And over 41% said, yeah, we're willing to pay a little bit more. And we said, okay, great. How much are you willing to pay? Are you willing to pay between $1 to $5 more? And the majority of those residents says, yes, we want to divert more, and yes, we're willing to pay more. Almost 73% said they're willing to pay between $1 to $5 a month. So from that information, next slide, please. We had several more meetings in 2013. And that's when we really started discussing the anaerobic digestion facility and how to get us to 75%. We believe that this technology will achieve that goal. So the last meeting we had about this with the board of directors was November 21st, and that's when they said, well, let's have some of these public workshops. And this is our second one, and we may have more after this meeting. Based on the turnout we're getting these last two meetings, it looks like a lot of people are very interested in this program, so my board might consider continuing these type of workshops. Next, please. So you heard some of the drivers from Mike on the CR&R side. So what are the drivers on Costa Mesa Sanitary District side? And one of those drivers, it's basically, it promotes our mission. Our mission is protecting our community's health and the environment by providing solid waste and sewer collection services. And as I mentioned earlier, we had a bunch of those meetings about zero waste. Well, in April of 2010, the board established a goal of achieving 75% diversion by 2015 and 90% by 2020, which is a very ambitious goal. And then the last driver, which I'll touch a little bit more on, and Mike did too, is the state mandate. And you can find this on Cal Recycle's website. That's the agency that manages solid waste in the state of California. You just Google Cal Recycle. And there was a law that was passed, I believe, in 2012. It's called AB 341, and it requires the state of California to divert 75% of the trash away from the landfill. And so what Cal Recycle staff has to do, they have to come back with a plan to the state legislatures. And one of those plans, they'll have a list of plans, and you'll see on their website, on top of that list is eliminating organics from the landfill. And how they do that, and Mike touched about this earlier, is repealing the green waste as alternative daily cover at the landfills. And I'll go explain what ADC is in a second. And they're also seriously considering requiring organics, like food waste, from being prohibited from the landfills. And as you see on the slides, 16% of waste disposed in California consists of food. Next slide, please. So the goal for the state is they want to reduce disposal landfill by 43 million tons. And so as I mentioned, one of those ways is repealing green waste. Now, as you know, a lot of the cities have the 3-can system, right? They have like the black can for the trash, the green can for the green waste, and then a blue can for the recyclables. And everyone says that green can is going to go for green waste to be recycled. Guess what? It's really not being recycled. What it's being used is called alternative daily cover, which is basically all it's doing is covering the landfill. That's all it's doing. And as Mike mentioned, it produces a lot of methane. So it's not really being recycled. But what the state is allowing the cities to do is to count that as diversion. They're still allowing us to count as diversion because by law, cities have to divert up to 50% away from the landfill. And like I said, we're already at 57%. But if we repeal the alternative daily cover, hit the slide again, our diversion will go down from 57 to almost 42%. And as Mike mentioned, there are some composting facilities in Orange County, but there's only a handful. If you go next slide, a couple more. And there's just not enough composting facilities. What's going to happen, we believe what's going to happen is all the cities are going to be scrambling. Well, what are we going to do with our green waste? You know, how are we going to recycle it? There's not going to be enough composting facilities. And what is going to happen is going to drive up demand and prices are going to go up. So we believe our position, let's get out front, let's be the leader and make tough decisions now before every other city starts scrambling and finding out how to recycle their green waste. Next slide, please. And then click one more time. So how's the proposed program going to work? Next slide, go one. So you probably recognize some of these. These are your mixed waste containers right now, where you can throw you can put your trash, your recyclables, and your green waste in those 2 containers. What the proposed program is that every resident would get this new container with a green lid on it, and there'll be a little sign on there that says organics, and it'll tell you what materials you can throw away. That will be where you can throw away your green waste and your organic waste. And depending on the residents, some residents have 32-gallon carts, some have 64-gallon carts. Every resident will get either one 64 or one 32-gallon, and you'll still continue to keep your 2 mixed waste containers. So basically, you'll have 3 containers. Now, you can get rid of one of your mixed waste containers if you want to, but we know change is hard for people, and so people are going to want to keep their 2nd containers, then you'll have your 3rd container on your green waste container. Now, if you have a third, some people have 3 mixed waste containers. And there's an actual charge for that. We charge $8 a month, almost I think $96 a year for that. If you have 3 containers and now you're getting green waste containers, we highly recommend that you get rid of that 3rd container, take that green waste container. Now you're saving $96 a year, so you can save some money. And we also recognize that some people have very large yards. So if you want a 2nd green waste container, you can have that at no cost as well. So you can have up to 4 containers if you want to. Okay. Go next slide, please. So what can you put in the organics? Basically, on green waste, anything that's green or brown. You know, you can put your grass clippings, your branches, leaves, weeds, bushes, shrubs, basically anything green or brown. Next slide, please. And as far as your food waste goes, this is all the materials you can take on your food waste, and it's just about anything that's edible. And this is the cup that Mike was telling you about, or that waffle store in Orange that has. And this is a little emblem on the bottom when you see biodegradable. Then we believe that could be used into that digester. And one day we believe all plastic will be biodegradable. But basically, you can throw any kind of food and even grease into your organic carts. Next slide, please. Now, we understand some residents don't have large lawns or green waste, or maybe they have a small family, don't generate a lot of food waste. So, if you don't have green waste, then one option is we will give you a 32-gallon food waste cart, so you can just put your food waste in there. Or you can opt out. It'll be on a case-by-case basis. If you say, hey, I want to opt out, we'll come and visit you and say, maybe offer some alternatives. But you do have that option to opt out if you want to. And we also understand that, again, there are some people that just don't generate a lot of food waste or have green waste, and you can opt out of the program if you want to. Next slide, please. Now, for those residents who want to participate in the food waste, and what we're going to offer is what's called kitchen pails to make it easy. So like if you're prepping for food and you have all this prep food, rather than to throw it down a garbage disposal, you can put it in this kitchen pail, or after dinner or after lunch, instead of taking each plate to your trash can and scrape it off, you could just put it in this kitchen pail and then take it to the container, and then you just wash that off. And that'll be available to residents as well. Next, please. So you would place your organic carts just like your regular trash day, whatever your trash day is, you place it on that day for collection. I do want to reiterate, right now we have one truck coming down, picking up down your neighborhood, picking up the containers. There will be 2 trucks coming down your neighborhood, so I want to make that clear. However, we currently have 9 vehicles in the fleet picking up your trash. That doesn't mean we're going to double the fleet. Doesn't mean you're going to have 18 trucks in the community. What that means, what happens is, now as you know, we're source separating the green waste and organics, so that means there's going to be less materials in your mixed waste. So therefore, CR&R doesn't need 9 trucks to pick up those mixed waste. They can redistribute those vehicles to pick up the organics. But we will need 1 additional truck in the community. So we'll go from 9 to 10 trucks. And as Mike mentioned, they'll all be powered by CNG, and once the anaerobic digestion system is operating and running, they'll all be running on renewable natural gas, which is the cleanest burning gas out there on the market. And then what happens when the trucks are picked up, the organics, they're not driving all the way out to Paris. What they're going to drive, they're going to go to CR&R's facilities in Stanton. They unload the organics, then they scoop the organics up and put them in semi-trucks, and then the semi-trucks goes out to Stanton. Okay, so there won't be a lot of wear and tear on the trucks you see in our community. Next slide, please. So I'd like to mention the organics will be converted to renewable natural gas. As Mike also said, they'll be converted to soil amendments. Any residue at the AD facility will have to come back and dispose at the Orange County landfill. We can't take it to a landfill in Riverside because we're under contract with the County of Orange. So if there's any trash that's actually at the AD facility, we still have to take that back to the landfills here in Orange County. The recyclables that are in your mixed waste, it's still status quo. Those will be going to the Stanton facilities. Those are picked out of the waste stream. They're baled and shipped off to the market. So nothing changed on the recyclables. Next slide, please. So we believe by going to this AD facility, remember the goal of the board is to achieve 75% by 2015. By using this facility, we believe we can achieve that in 2015. Next slide, please. And I want to reiterate that, as I mentioned earlier, we understand it's very easy to commingle your recyclables with your trash. You're still going to be doing the same. There's no separating of plastics, glass, paper. I mean, that material is in every day of our lives. We get that. You don't have to separate that. With green waste, you're maybe doing green waste once a week. I know there are hardcore gardeners out there that do it every day, but most people are gardening or cutting their lawns once a week. So yes, it's a change in the way you throw it, but it's not like we believe it's not a big change as it would be if you had to separate your glasses and your plastics, and we're not requiring you to do that. Next slide, please. So one of the questions when we're looking at this program is, what are the options available for organic recycling? As we mentioned earlier, there are composting facilities in Orange County and Southern California, but they're very limited. None of the composting facilities in Orange County are permitted to collect food waste. All they collect is green waste. Remember, our program, you're going to be able to collect food waste. And as Mike mentioned, these on the list here, these facilities right here, they collect food waste and green waste, and you can see how far they are from us. And CR&R facilities in Paris is actually the closest facility that will allow us to recycle food waste. And as you know, we do have a very successful composting program. If you ever bought a composting bin from us, we have one that's very inexpensive and it's very popular. If you're one of those hardcore gardeners, we encourage you to buy one. But one of the drawbacks from our composting facilities is that you cannot compost meat, poultry, seafood, eggshells like the organic programs we're proposing to do. Next, please. Real quick, Mike mentioned this, why this has to be separated, and that's because as Mike said, you just can't contaminate the green waste. The AD does not work if you have, glass in it, or if you have, hairpins in there, or other materials in it. It just won't work. So that's why we have to separate the green waste. Next slide. Do I have to separate food scraps? If you really don't want to, if you don't want to put your food waste in the organic cart, that's fine. There's not going to be trash cops out there lifting up your trash cans. Say, oh, there's food waste. Okay, there's no food waste. You're going to get a fine. Don't worry about that. If you want to throw your food waste away, that is perfectly fine. This is just an option for people who are really want to participate in protecting the environment and doing their part. This is just an easy, convenient way for people to throw away their food waste. And as I mentioned, we will be the first and only community in Orange County, if this is approved by the board, the first and only community in Orange County that has a curbside food waste program. Next slide, please. Now, the board still will be considering, this is still a proposal. They might be considering it January 23rd, but based on this turnout, I might recommend, I probably recommend we have some more community outreach, because obviously people are interested in this program. But even if the board does approve it, we're still going to get out there in the community. And this is one way we're going to, our plan to get out in the community to talk about this program. After today, this is not the last of the meetings. We'll still go out in the community and talk about this program, because we understand it is a change in people's behavior, and we want to make sure this transition is as easy as possible. Next slide, please. So let me get about cost. For some of you out there, what is this going to cost me? So let's talk about cost here for a second. The way the cost is structured here in Costa Mesa Sanitary District is two rates. The first rate is called a hauler rate. And basically what is a charge of almost $8.91 per property owner. So that generates about almost $2.3 million. What the proposed cost would be increased, I think it was about 81 cents to $9 and almost $9.80. And that is to pay for the organic carts. Okay, there is a capital cost in that. So there's an additional cost of $229,620 for the hauler rate. And then there's a recycling disposal cost. Right now, all the materials taken to the Stanton facility, and it's charged at $51.97 per ton. And we generate a little over 41,000 tons of trash. Now, the majority of that tons, 67%, is still going to be status quo, $51.97. That's still going to be taken. This is the trash and recycling, and it's going to the Stanton facility. The recyclables are being picked out, shipped out to the markets. We believe 33% of the materials will be the organics. And the organics, that's going to go to the AD facility in Paris, and that's going to be the cost at $71.50. That is the guaranteed lowest rate anyone out there. I think right now CR&R is negotiating with the City of Los Angeles, and you can imagine the tonnage they're generating. Our rate's still lower than the City of Los Angeles. It'll be lower than anyone else. And according to our proposed contract with CR&R, if they negotiate a favorable rate with anyone else in Orange County, they have to honor that rate with us. Okay, so next slide. So, so you take the difference. This is the difference between the disposal costs because of the additional organics. So there's a difference of $265,000. Next slide. And if you include the kitchen pails and community outreach, the total cost is over $500,000 a year. So if you go on the next slide, this might be a little hard. I'm sorry, this might be hard to read. So if you have the handouts, you can see it on the handouts. But what does that mean by the rates? There's a couple options the board can consider. Dean, can you see if they're done with their handouts? They're printing about 20 copies out right now. There's a couple options we can do. Right now, we have a pretty healthy reserve in the solid waste fund. We don't have any capital expenditures, like we're not responsible for buying trucks. We don't maintain the carts. So one option is we can use that reserves to offset the costs for a period of time. And this is just a proposed period of time, about 5-6 years. And then when that cost is ran out, then we can do a rate adjustment. And these are just estimates. It's not etched in stone or anything, but just kind of get an idea of what it could be. But go from $18, which, by the way, I do have to mention that this is the second consecutive year that the board reduced the rates. It was at $19.95. We reduced it last year to $19. Now it's $18, and it'll be $18 again next year because we have a 2-year budget. So that's one option. Next slide. Another option is, like I said, we're at $18 for this year and next year. Maybe we just do some small incremental increases so that the increases won't be such a big hit when we run out of the reserve. So those are a couple options the board can consider. Next slide, please. So some of the key components are, again, there's no long-term commitments. It's a 6-year evergreen. It's not, there's some rumors out there, well, there was be 20-year contracts. No, it's a six-year evergreen. There's no long-term commitment to this program. As I mentioned earlier, we negotiated the lowest rate, and if any Orange County city negotiated a lower rate than 7150, then CR&R must honor that. I want to reiterate again, you're not separating recyclables. It's status quo on that. And it just gives residents an opportunity to recycle food waste, and there's no fines or penalties if you throw your food waste in the trash bin. Next slide, please. You've heard this already. I'll just quick through it. It'll divert 75% of our waste stream. Like I said, if you have a third or a fourth mixed waste cart, you could save up to $96 to $192 a year if you have those carts, because now you go to organic. So there is some potential savings if you have additional carts. It helps extend the lifespan of the landfill. As I mentioned, the trucks will be powered by renewable gas. No other community in OC has this kind of program, and it's proactive change in the solid waste regulations. And there's one more slide I have for you. This conversion technology is already being used in Japan, Israel, and Europe. And right now in Orange County, we have 3 landfills. And the one landfill in Brea is scheduled to close in 15 years. So good luck trying to put a landfill in Orange County. It's not going to happen. They're trying to put a landfill in San Diego County for 20 years, and they're still trying to. I think I put in here. Yeah, they have 19 lawsuits and spent $67 million to try to put a landfill in San Diego County. And I don't know if you knew, but Point of Hills in the City of Industry. They just closed in October, and that's the largest landfill in the world. It's just closed. And I have an article for you, hope you have that explains what all the LA County cities are trying to do. They're scrambling. They don't know what to do because that landfill is now closed. The LA County Sanitation District has a great idea, not. And that's basically, they want to rail their solid waste out to the desert. They have a landfill on Mesquite Landfill. They want to rail it out there, and that's going to cost about $100 a ton. So they're scrambling over there. So the point I'm trying to say is that we've got to look in the future here. The way we throw, like Mike said, the way we throw our trash in the past has to change because landfill space is limited. We have regulations coming down. So our position is let's be out front. Let's be leaders. Let's get this under. Let's be innovative because when it hits the fan, people are going to be scrambling, and we'll just be sitting back and just watching if this is approved. And I think we have a golden opportunity to be leaders in this industry. And just one last slide. So where we go from here, the board will have a meeting on January 23rd. We might have it here based on the turnout we're having, because I don't know if you've ever been to our headquarters over there on 19th Street. It's pretty small. I think we can only fit maybe 4 or 5 people in the boardroom. So based on what we're seeing this turnout, I'm probably going to recommend we have our board meeting here. So if you're interested to make comments to the board, you'll be more than welcome. We might even delay making a decision and still have some more of these workshops as evident as what's the turnout here. So that concludes my presentation. I'll bring Mike back up and then answer any questions. We'll stay here as long as we can to answer all your questions. So Mike, why don't you come on up? So if you might come to the podium because we're being taped on here, so we can hear you. So yes, sir.
Phil Morello. I don't know if that's on or not.
Can everyone hear?
No. You didn't mention what the penalties might be for non-compliance with the state. I want to ask all my questions because I have to leave. So
okay, sure.
And then you can answer them.
Sure.
So you said we had to be in compliance by 2020. You didn't specify what the non-compliance fine would be or whatever from the state. Secondly, you didn't say anything about wear and tear on our streets. You said you're going to add a truck, but there's still more trips. And our roads some of them are in disrepair, and our city really doesn't have the money to do repairs currently. And I was wondering if there would be a franchise fee that we would have to pay in addition. In other words, the sanitary district would have to pay to the city as a complement to road repair, pot of money, let's say. The other thing is this is a nightmare for the rental neighborhoods. we don't have any linear footage on the curb to put the current number of cans we have. We're out of compliance as it stands in terms of what the requirements are for putting cans on the curb. We have to put them in the street, off the curb, and there's not enough parking. The areas where the trash cans are put are typically where cars would park, and so the cans block the exit ways from the driveways, and some of them are put on the lawn near the curb. When they're put on the lawn near the curb, a number of times the cans won't get emptied, and then, you know, people have to call and have extra trips to come out and pick up the cans and that sort of thing. So adding, let's say if you have a 5-unit residential place, adding an additional 5 cans to the 10 cans that you already have, it's a nightmare. There's absolutely no place whatsoever to put these additional cans. The last question I have is, why experiment with Costa Mesa? I understand you're under a time limit here, but that's why my first question, the 2020, and what the penalties would be. We're only a small city. We have 110,000 people. We only have 23,000 households. And basically, the sanitary district has a year and 3/4 worth of our money in operating costs in reserve. It's tens of millions of dollars already. They're asking for more money. And I don't understand why experiment with Costa Mesa. The numbers you've given are only speculative. They're not cast in stone. They're likely to go up. I would prefer that you probably let another bigger city take the lead on it. Then once it's a proven technology and proven methodology, that we do a similar thing. I see no reason for us to be first. Thank you very much. I'll say good night. Sure. Bye.
I apologize. I wasn't being disrespectful for Scott. I was standing outside because I'm a little under the weather today. But first, I can take the last question first. We're not experimenting. I mean, the technology is proven. All the cities are going to it. We just felt, I guess, professional courtesy to give you guys the first opportunity because you are our oldest client and give you the best rate. But it's not an experiment by any stretch of the imagination.
Could you speak up and project, please?
Is it that still on now? Is that on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Talking in the back, and I can't just...
Okay. You guys all right in the back or no? No, the gentleman next to you says he can hear me. I apologize. I can't go much louder. You all right? Okay. I'm sorry. I can't get that one lady to hear. Anyways, it's not an experiment. Technology is proven, and we just want Costa Mesa to be our first client. And we do, like I said, we are soliciting other clients. From a risk standpoint, you have 0 risk because you're not putting up any of the capital. Heaven forbid it didn't work. You don't participate. It's just like when we started the 1-can system 20 years ago. The rate goes into effect. We start the program, but we're putting up the $20 million. So if we were not successful, your rates you won't be charged for that system. So there's no risk on that part of it. That's the last question I can answer on that one. You have the other ones?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. I'll try to answer the other 2 questions. As far as what the fines are, AB 939, that was adopted in 1989. If we fall below the 50% diversion, you could be fined $10,000 a day. The AB 341, which requires the state of California to divert by 75% by 2020, it's not, that's for the state, so there's no fine on us if the state doesn't hit that 75%. But as I said earlier, that's still going to impact us through the removal of organics. So there's organics, as far as the cost goes, there's a cost associated with the program because now we have to recycle the green waste. As far as the franchise fees, additional trucks on the street, again, it's 1 truck, additional truck. No, we haven't had any discussions with the city as far as a franchise fee. I know they've kind of broached that questions, but we haven't had any further discussion on that. So, any other questions? Please speak up to the microphone, please.
You didn't address the space issue for the cans.
One time, if you want to speak, please come on up so we can. Somebody's been waiting patiently.
Okay, I know about the 4th question.
She was saying the space issue.
Oh, the space issue? Yes, okay. Well, space issue, yes, we recognize that. We'll recognize that. We're going to work with CR&R to see if we can accommodate the space issue. We recognize that. There are some issues that have a lot of carts in it. We know that. And so we'll have to work with CR&R to address that issue. Yes.
Okay, so you say that what you need is no organics, right? So what do you do with like a jar of spaghetti sauce? How do you get that into your trash? You say on your slide that we can put some food waste in our regular trash. That's not going to work if there's supposed to be no organics.
Well, I think one thing, no organics is not technically feasible. There's always going to be some people that don't do it the right way. So we design a program that addresses the majority of the people. We hope to get 98, 99% compliance. But you're right, there's going to be some in there. It always is. Just like in our other cities where we have 3 containers, trust me, there's garbage in the recycling can, there's tennis shoes in the green waste can. We're in the trash business. We know that.
Good afternoon, good morning. I would like to congratulate you on a wonderful presentation. It's amazing some of the technology that you're using in the state of the art. That's technology helping us, working for us. And I think we should give him a great hand for this. My biggest concern, I think, is we're in the worst recession that we've had in 80 years. We've all experienced health tax increases. The city of Costa Mesa just increased their water rates. We're getting hit right and left. Our gasoline has doubled in the last 5 years. Our rates. We're getting squeezed and we're getting squeezed. And more people are out of work, unemployed, have given up. So I'm just questioning the timing. I think the concept is 100%. Another way of looking at it might be, my understanding is that we haven't got a competitive bid in over 20 years from a competitor. If we've got all this reserves, really what we're talking about is we could probably reduce our rates 15, 20%, help the ratepayers pay their increased healthcare taxes, and do some things like that, and wait, and maybe start this in 2015 or 2016. Would you like to address? And it sounds like it's a done deal. You've already made up your mind to do it, and we're just getting the information out.
Okay. No, it's not a done deal. The board has not made a decision yet. As I mentioned earlier, we may delay that just based on the turnout we're getting. We probably may delay that decision and go out to the community some more. As far as giving that money back to ratepayers, we have. We've already have. We've had 2 consecutive rate reductions already. So we are doing that. We are giving that money back to the residents. Another option, I said, if the board does approve this, it's not going to happen a month, 2 months from now. I mean, we're looking at implementing this program in 2015. And as I mentioned earlier, one idea is to, again, continue using those reserves to offset any costs. So to people who are maybe struggling out there and are concerned about the increases, if the board goes that direction, we can keep the rate stabilized for another 5, 6 years. So that's another option.
Yeah, all I was going to say is I know some of the numbers are very complex, but when the rubber meets the road, close, because it depends on how the participation level is, the tonnages, but it's about $1.81 a month. And so now the board has a decision. Do they phase that in over time, do it all at one time, do a quarter a year or something? But it's about $1.81 is the total project proposal to the citizens of Costa Mesa.
Per household, you're saying, right?
Yeah, right, per ratepayer, right, yeah, $1.81, yeah. I'm not saying that's a little or a lot. I'm saying that's the most cost-effective solution we could come up with to implement this technology.
If you did nothing, you could reduce the rate by $1.80. So now we're looking at 20%.
I can't argue with you on that on the financing of the district myself. Yes, sir.
Very good. I'd like to say I'm in favor of the city of Costa Mesa being a leader in green technology. I hope the city administration takes a cue from you people. Excuse me. We use a smaller trash can. When the city first came out with those mammoth trash cans, I called them up and said, this is ridiculous. They gave us what they call the handicap can. That'll help people with space if they don't have to fill it all the way up. Our family only fills this handicap can halfway up. Part of the reason is because we take paper, cardboard, bottles, and cans to Orange Coast College and donate them to their recycling facility. So that cuts down on the waste stream. And because we have a smaller can, I'm wondering if we would be charged less money than those people that have the large cans. Yes. And the fourth thing is, I'm sorry, is there some way we can encourage or legislate less plastic and packaging material going into the waste stream? When you buy something at Costco and it comes like this, and what you're really buying is only something this big. So if we could somehow get plastic and unnecessary waste out, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As far as having like a variable rate structure for smaller cans, it has been talked about briefly by the board. We haven't really talked about seriously, but it's something we definitely could explore. So it's definitely could be on the table. As far as, and I think Mike will jump in here, but as far as large, the large packaging, all that stuff, we concur. Unfortunately, us as a special district, we can't regulate businesses on what they do, but we can maybe partner with the city if they want to do that. Partner with the city and be like a big sponsor and encourage manufacturers to produce less packaging.
No, I was just going to thank him for going to Orange Coast College. We're actually the benefactor of Orange Coast College. We're the ones who built that project from day one, and we've kept that project running for the last, I don't know, 30, 35 years. So we have no problem with you guys taking your stuff there as long as it doesn't go to the landfill.
I like the idea. The early sign-up seems to me you get a better price. And it also sounded like if anybody else comes in later and gets a low price, we get that lower price if it gets down. And hopefully there will be all kinds of money from the production of your RNG, the recycled...
Renewable natural gas.
Oh, renewable natural gas, okay. And when you get lots of money from that, hopefully we'll get a share back. Lower prices.
I'll address that.
I do have some sort of basic questions on just what I'm supposed to do. I have the city compost device in the backyard, so I put a lot of food waste in there, but I don't put bones and fat. Now, in this green garbage can, I also have a lot of green waste at different times of the year. And right now, I've got a whole lot of the green-brown stuff. Now, are you saying we do not put bones and meat into that can, into the green can? Does it just go in with the mixed stuff? And I too use Orange Coast, so my mixed stuff, it doesn't have that many recyclables. And I guess I'm concerned about the green container. If my green container is out and it has just really nice green stuff in it, green-brown, and some kid comes by and tosses their soda pop bottle or their drink container into the can, suddenly it's infected by not being green. So does that mean that my container is no longer totally green and won't be accepted in Paris? Or does it mean that the whole truck full of the stuff is not going to be accepted in Paris?
I got you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
All right.
Please.
We know there's going to be some contamination. I think another young lady asked that question also. It had something to do with spaghetti jar. So we know that's going to happen. We're going to get tennis shoes and we're going to get Levi's. We're going to get a bicycle rim. We understand that. But again, our history has been about 98% compliant is what happens to the material. And we're ready for the small percent. So this gets us mostly there. I lost my train of thought. What was your first question? I apologize.
Part about the meat and
Oh, yeah. Our definition is anything organic. We can handle the bones. Here's what happens in that digester, to be honest. When it goes through the digester, anything that we haven't got out previously, let's say glass or a piece of bone, will come out the back end. It just won't add anything to, I know, it was the rates. I'm going to go into that one because I know that's near and dear to your heart. So anything that's inorganic will pass through the system. We'll get it out on the back end. But it's just kind of like a waste of time to put it in there. It goes through. It doesn't hurt anything, but it takes up space. We got to handle it. So the cleaner, the better. Then your question about rates, which stuck in my head. There was a gentleman here last time that asked me that question. And our quote right now to you is $71.50. So you know that's the best it's ever going to get in the whole planet. Our real cost is about $125. We netted out of there our renewable natural gas sales, our fertilizer sales, our avoided landfill, everything. We got it down to brass tacks. I don't know if Scott had it in his because I was standing outside. I apologize because I'm not feeling well. The city of LA, you guys produce about 50 tons a day. Pretty good sized client for us. But the city of LA produces 1,800 tons a day. Our price to them was $72.50, $1 more than Costa Mesa's. If they only give us 50 tons, our price to them is $85. So we've cut it down to the bone, literally, no pun intended, to try to get your business. And again, professional courtesy. You are our first client. Literally, personally, you were my very first client 25 years ago when I first got into business. So that's really the rate. It's not going to get any better than that. So delaying it, yeah, it may cost you a few cents. I can't deny that, especially if another city steps up. But, you know, we'll wait till this one's done and you guys have run the course. But that's really the opportunity, is the best rate we've got. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. I just needed a little clarity. Is it my understanding that there's a container for food waste, green waste, and the mixed waste? Or is it the green waste goes in with the mixed waste and it's separated? I'm just trying to figure out how many trash cans I'm going to have, how much separating I'm going to do, and what my cost is for the next couple of years.
Okay, at the end of the day, regardless of the number of cans, because that depends on how big your home is, you'll have two flavors at the curb. Organics, green waste, food waste, anything that's organic, and anything that's not organic. Paper, cans, bottles, plastics. So really, some people may have 4 cans because they got a lot of people. They may have 2 organic cans and 2 recycling cans, but it'll be 2 flavors.
Right, but you want to keep the greens separated from the food parts.
No.
Oh, so
no, the definition is organic. If you use organic, you're covered. Green, food, bone, her spaghetti sauce, somebody's
okay,
meat.
that all goes in one can.
Yeah.
All right, thank
2
you.
flavors, organic and recycled.
Good morning. I have a couple questions. You talked about 3 grants that you were given, was that correct?
4.
4, okay. So those grants funded, or when will they be funded, and how much are they?
Yeah, they're funded as we construct, a total of $5 million. And back to the other young lady's question about the rates, we've netted that out of the cost to the city.
No, I'm wondering, okay, when do you get the grants? Have you gotten the grants now?
Oh, no, we don't get them until we build.
Okay, so what's the timeline on that?
We're going to start building hopefully in the next 30 days. It takes us about a year to build it.
Okay,
and we get the grants as we build.
Okay, so you have 1 grant funded now for the.
No, we have no grants.
Okay, but my question is, when will you start to get the grants?
When we start building.
Okay.
And as we build, it's basically a 3-to-1 match. Every $3 I spend, they give me $1.
Okay.
Most grants are reimbursable. That's how they work. So you got to
incur the cost. I work in the public sector. I know how they work. How much do the trucks cost? So if we have trucks now and you only need to add 1 more, how much do you pay for a truck?
They're about $250 to $1,000 each.
Okay.
And that's because they run on natural gas.
Exactly. Okay. And then you talked about a reserve fund that we have now. How much is in the reserve fund right now?
$4 million.
And what do you use the reserve fund for typically?
Well, right now, we used it to reduce the rates. It's been reduced 2 consecutive years. Okay. That's what we're using it for.
Okay, great. Those were all the questions I had. Thanks.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to know, one, why we don't encourage more source separation by the people contributing to the trash. Not that hard to do, and would take a lot of pressure off of your facility if some sort of source separation is done. In your program, you also mentioned in your process chemicals that would be used to help this process. Chemicals and organics don't seem to go together. How are they for the environment? What is it, and why do we have to use those chemicals as opposed to a natural process?
Oh, the whole process is 100% natural. We only add chemicals if the farmers request it. Like they say, we want more calcium in it, or we want more phosphorus in the fertilizer. That's strictly a fertilization question. We don't intend to do that if we don't have to. But our design allows us to do that if the market dictates it. If Home Depot comes to us and says, your fertilizer doesn't have enough of this in it, then we can add that. Strictly for organic uses, nothing to do with the process itself.
Okay. And then you're mixing bone, and when you say organics, I envision people putting their pet waste as well as diapers and all that in there. And you've got pathogens, all that yuck stuff there.
Yep.
Why wouldn't we try to keep that separate? I mean, what's happening in your process that from a disease?
Yeah, it's all governmentally regulated, and it's all automated. When it goes through the anaerobic digestion process, it meets all the pathogen kill regulations. It's in the digester 21 plus days at 135 degrees F, cooks all the pathogens, kills them all, also kills all the weed seed. Diapers, we don't want the diaper. I don't have the problem with the stuff inside the diaper, but I don't want the diaper. So diapers will end up in the trash where they've been going, or in the recycling can as we call it, that stream. That's where they've been going now, so that's not a problem.
So they'll stay in the regular mixed waste?
Yeah, because we don't want the fiber and the plastic and the stuff that goes with that, right?
And how about the animal waste that gets thrown?
Well, you know, it's funny because we had that question last time, and we have no problem with the waste, but it was about the kitty litter. And basically, the kitty litter will pass through the system because it's inert. It doesn't add anything to the process. So again, we would prefer to have them taken apart. But again, we know we're in the collection business, and so we have to design a program that's cost-effective and user-friendly, so we can deal with it.
So when people are using the grocery bags to pick up animal waste and that gets mixed in there, that's not an issue?
No, we don't want the bag. Like I said, we want the waste. We don't want the bag.
But if it's in there?
We have to deal with it.
We pull it out. They'll pull it out.
We'll pull it out. The system it'll go through because what happens, the waste will biodegrade and the plastic won't. So it'll come out the back end and we'll screen it out. But it's not ideal. And I think down the road, someone was talking about manufacturer's assistance. Maybe down the road, they'll make those bags biodegradable, so it'll be no big deal. It'll just go through the process.
Okay, now I realize that I'm kind of an exception here, but again, I mentioned about reducing and source separating. I mean, I'm one of these people that out of the 2 cans that you allow me, most of the time it's 1 can 50%.
Yeah, I understand the question, but I'm not sure what solution I can give to you other than if you're doing a tremendous job on source separation, bring it to our yard on Western and get paid for it, Orange Coast College and that. But it's not cost effective for us to come and collect. If you went back to evolution where you saw the small milk crates, that's not cost effective anymore.
For who?
For the citizens. It costs us more to go pick up a little stack of newspapers on your curb than they're worth.
Okay.
Think about it. We're running a $250,000 truck with a guy, fuel, maintenance. I mean, we got to make it happen, be totally candid. You know, we got some tough routes. So for us to go by and pick up those milk crates like we did in the 80s, it's not cost effective. So if anybody does great self-separation, go to Orange Coast College, come to our yard in Western, and get paid for it.
But I mean, if that's what we're already doing, we're already, that process where we do, as we go out and do whatever we do, we drop something by. It's just, it takes the burden off of the municipality. It should reduce rates, and for those of us that do it, there should be an incentive program there to cut that cost for that particular residence in terms of what they're not putting into the system.
Yeah, I can't, it's not going to address that, but I can tell you this. Unfortunately, that's not the norm. We're designing a system to handle 85,000 people, 21,000 homes, and I would say, you know, 3 to 4% are pretty hardcore recyclers that do their separation. The average person does not.
And I understand that, but why not encourage some more of that by giving an incentive? Would that not help your system? That's all I'm saying. Help the overall thing by make people more aware. Thank you.
workshop. I have 2 questions and 1 comment. Question 1, aside from the suggestion that it's good for the environment, we've been told that this program is or will be forced upon us by legislation in Sacramento. I believe that CR&R, as is its right, and the district for that matter, from time to time takes positions on pending legislation and regulations and generally engages in lobbying. In the interest of transparency, I wonder if we could be very open about whether CR&R or the district board has actually actively encouraged any of these new rules that are now forcing this upon us.
Well, I can address that. CR&R hasn't taken a position on either one of those rules yet. However, most of those laws are not driven by our industry. They're driven by the environmental industry. So I can tell you for sure the big proponents of those laws are Californians Against Waste, CAW, very active up there, the Sierra Club, and the NRDC, National... I knew someone would know that. So, but we haven't taken a position on either one yet. But they are. I think they will pass. It's a Democrat-controlled legislature, very environmentally sensitive. So I think they'll both pass.
Question 2. Although we've heard that we need to achieve a desired percentage of diversion, I believe we've also heard the state's real goal, and the thing we have to achieve, is reducing the amount of waste going to landfills, the volume or tonnage of waste going to the landfills. Under the program that's been described, the people will can retain their current carts and add new ones, which means they will have increased capacity for disposing of regular trash at the curb, because those containers will not now have to be filled with green waste, have more capacity for the normal trash, subject to this preventive. And how can the increased capacity for placing the trash at the curb be reconciled with the objective of reducing the volume going to the landfill?
That's an easy one. It's not reality. If I give you 10 trash cans, you don't spend more money and go fill them all up. It doesn't matter. The amount of capacity we give you doesn't push or pull the amount of money you spend and how much trash you generate. People thought a lot about that. A lot of cities that tried pay-as-you-throw and different things like that, it has zero effect on people's consumer habits, how much capacity we give you.
Let me add to that. And again, again, going back to simplicity, we understand the current program is very simplistic. People love their 2 trash cans, and so, you know, what we're hoping is, okay, keep your 2 cans, we'll give you a 3rd can, and once they get used to the new system, we're hoping people, hey, I don't need this 3rd can, and they'll call us up, say, hey, pick this can up and take it away from me. So that's what we're that's what we're hoping what's going to encourage. We just know change is very hard on people, and we want to make it as simple as easy. That's why you can keep your 2 cans if you want, and you get your 3rd can, but you can always return one of them if you want to.
Third and final item is more of a comment, but it's closely related to the slide that CR&R showed about the negative carbon footprint, which gives the impression, which you didn't actually say, but it certainly gives the audience the impression that implementing this program is somehow going to suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. I do not believe that is correct, and I do not believe that RNG trucks running on Costa Mesa city streets are going to produce less pollution than the current trucks. I believe what that statistic cited is probably showing is what happens when you have a closed cycle production of natural gas from crops by anaerobic digestion. In other words, the growing crops are believed to absorb more carbon dioxide from the air than is produced by your plant and the burning of the methane it produces. It creates the interesting possibility that we really should be increasing the volume of green waste by growing more, consuming more, and shipping more of the residue to your plant. But I think before we do that, we should verify that that's really true, because I think it must be affected by what kind of plants are growing, sucking that stuff out of the air. And it must depend on the human process that goes between the two. So I really am doubtful that a huge green waste program is going to be having a negative impact on CO2. Thank you.
I can only refer you to, and I'll get your stuff, Jim. I know we met before. I'll send you the report from the Air Resources Board. We didn't create that slide. And what it's saying is over life cycle analysis, it's a negative carbon for every unit consumed of energy. It's not saying it's taking carbon out of the air, but because we're avoiding methane at the landfill, avoiding transportation of the gas from North Dakota, that it ends up being a negative number. Thank you.
I have a couple of things I'd like to say. It's difficult for me to walk.
You want me to read it?
Thank you.
Sure.
No, this is my card.
I was going to read it for you, or you want me to
No. This card that you sent to residents, it says that, it says it's proposed, and I'm echoing what somebody else brought up. According to this presentation, it does seem like it's a done deal. And I would encourage whoever's responsible to get competitive proposals. And this card also says that we're going to be required to do the separation. The recyclables, the compost materials that become fertilizer, the grease that becomes, I guess, fuel, right? All that, there's going to be earnings from all of those things. Probably not a lot, but there will be earnings. Why are we having to pay an increased rate rather than a reduced rate? And lastly, number 4, I have a question. What happens to the water? Sorry, surgery damaged my vocal cords, so it's hard to project. What happens to the water that is used in that process that he explained about, you know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Okay.
So here, what happens to the water, the process, and also earnings? You know, shouldn't there be a rate? You're making money off this, shouldn't there be a rate decrease?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I'll re-emphasize it. Our true cost is about $125 a ton. We're charging the $71.50, which is netted out the fertilizer, the CNG sales, all the avoided disposal, all that. So that is the net cost. The water, basically, most of it gets recycled. We use it in the process. If you remember that slide I showed you where it went through a screw press and the solids went this way and the liquids went this way. Any liquids we can, we recycle back through the process. But there's no wastewater. It either stays in our system or it goes out with the fertilizer as moisture. But there's no water going down the sewer per se.
And let me address, the question about proposed. This is, again, it is proposed. It's not a done deal. The board is taking everyone's comments and concerns. Like I said, we have one board director here listening to everyone. This is being videotaped, so the board will hear your concerns and they will make a decision. But it's not a done deal.
The gal before me sort of asked the same question. I'm going to ask it a little bit different way. But we as residents are being asked to do more, to do some of the work of separating. Therefore, CC&R is doing less. So it just doesn't make sense to me why we're being asked to pay more when they're doing less, and we have to do more.
Okay.
You don't have to drive your trucks this far, all that.
I'll address it. I'm good. I got the question. Yeah, I've heard it before. That's okay. That's a good question. We're doing a lot more. First of all, right now, the one can comes to our plant, and we take it all apart anyways right now. Now what happens is one truck's going to go to our plant in Stanton. One truck's got to be transferred to our plant in Paris. So we have a huge transportation thing there, obviously. Then we have to obviously cover our cost of the $20 million plant. So we have to build the entire facility. So when you put all those rates into there, like I said, it's about $125 a ton. We're charging the $71.50. I think one thing that wasn't clear, and again, I don't know if Scott covered it on his earlier thing. Right now, I'm going to use round numbers. I believe the processing fee is about $52. Is that correct?
Yeah, $51.97, yeah.
Okay, $51.97 to be exact is what the processing fee is now. That portion of the green waste will be charged the $71.50. So that delta, I'm going to say only, because that's what I think, but obviously not only to you guys, the delta is $20. That $20 is only charged on the tonnage you put in the green waste can. So we're not charging you $71.50 across the whole system. It's strictly on that barrel that we've got to take to Paris to help support the $20 million facility. That's why it costs more to do more environmentally intelligent things. That's just how it goes. You know, it's an evolutionary process. It's not getting less expensive to handle garbage. It's getting more expensive, just like the sewer systems.
Strip out the green stuff the way you do now?
No, because the green we take out now goes as alternative daily cover to the landfill, which is the lowest possible use. And it's got glass in it and plastic and all kinds of stuff. It's very, very contaminated. And so we cannot use that in this system.
I don't understand why it's contaminated when you guys do it, but a bunch of volunteers separating, I would think it would be just as contaminated.
Oh, no. You gotta remember, right now, you're getting the grass clippings in there, the trash in there, everything's in one can right now, 100%. Like, I can speak from experience. I live in Garden Grove. My green waste can is almost 100% perfect because I mow the lawn, I put it in the green waste can. There's no reason for me to throw trash in there. So right now, our green waste is 100% contaminated, 100%. Everybody's green waste in here is contaminated because that's how the program was designed, and we glean it out with our trauma and our air separation and things like that. But we can't do a perfect job. And that worked 20 years ago because we could take it as alternative daily cover. The county didn't care if it had a little bit of junk in there. I can't put that into my system. I can tell you from experience, and you saw the 41 cities up there, we've probably got 20 or 30 on a 3-container system, which is very similar because the residents are sorting our green waste. It's 98% pure. The only reason trash gets in there, to be honest, is because somebody consciously does it. It doesn't usually happen by accident because the green waste, which is the majority, is generated in a different place. So that's why it's so much cleaner. I mean, it's astronomically cleaner. That's why. No problem.
I guess it's still morning. Good morning. Your presentation of the digester and the recovered natural gas is very good. But you say you vent the carbon dioxide, and that's supposed to be greenhouse warming gas. Why not bottle it and sell it to somebody? I heard of an experiment where they're feeding the carbon dioxide to algae and coming up with oil. So, rather than vent it, sell it.
You read my files. I got all that. It's not cost effective yet. We don't produce enough CO2 to entice the algae guys, people that make DME, which is dimethyl ether, and people that use CO2. Maybe when we get down to phase 2, 3, and 4, where I'm more of an industrial process and I've got enough for them, then they'll be interested. But right now, we don't make enough to make it commercially viable to do something else. But we want to. It's on my radar, trust me. Yeah.
We're the same wavelength.
Yeah. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's up to you.
Careful what you
So,
say.
the organic one, you could put in your Kentucky Fried Chicken bones and the other, it would chew it up and put it into the slurry?
Oh yeah, we can handle the Kentucky Fried Chicken bones, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've lived in Costa Mesa for 77 years. I lived on Orange Avenue for 77 years. I remember taking my dump to where now the city has their main office, and we dumped it. A Model A pickup. Now, I am a man, I don't care if you rate my height, I love the service to walking in my backyard and getting rid of my trash. I have not disposed of green waste out of my yard in about 5 years because I have earthworms that eat it. Yes. I have earthworm compost I'm trying to give to people to grow better organics. I love the service. Hype me up. I have faith in your system. Well, I don't have faith in this room of all the little people saying, what's it going to cost me? I'm going to have to sit in my own place. I used to drive my truck, my car way out and more dump stuff. Good Lord. This is a great service. So shut up. Quit being so damn lazy.
I'm so glad I could get my Uncle Jerry to come today. Because being taken, we've never met. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the help.
My apologies, I got here late. How many years is it going to take at this $20 increase using this can to support this new building that's being done? And I apologize again, I came in late. And from the reaction that I've heard in this room, if the waste matter is put into this new can at this increased rate, what's going to stop people from nickel pinning it and still putting it in the other one? I mean, can there be some way that it's acknowledged with the trucks that's picking up the one that it's still being utilized? I mean, how is it going to be able to be
policed? Well, there's no trash police. It's all the honor system, like all of our cities are serviced. And like I said, 98% of our customers comply and do a great job. Some people still mix it and still put garbage in there, and we have to design a system to handle that. So, you know, it's just part of our business, and that's how we design for it.
Okay, and do we see at some point that this increase is going to go away because the plant's been paid for? I mean, kind of like when bridges get built, there's a toll for a while and then it's gone? Or
No, I'd say it's hard to know, but realistically, right now, our contracts with all our cities are all different lengths. The financing on that facility is over 15 years, so it's at least 15 years before we can have that conversation. And my gut reaction, only from being in the business, we'll be spending another $20 million in 10 years to upgrade it or change technology. So really, I'll be candid, it's probably never going to go away, you know, but it may levelize for a while.
Just have one question. You said it's going to cost additional $1.81 per household per month, and that's going to be included in our property taxes anyway. Is that right?
Yeah, approximately. That's what it is. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I think that just gives perspective to what
yeah,
right.
Hi. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had several questions, but fortunately, a lot of them have been answered already. Did have a couple left. Okay, green waste. Now, I've got some big trees on my property. I prune them from time to time, and so I've got some pretty good sized limbs. What do I do with those? Do those go in the green waste can, or?
Yeah, if you can get them in the can, we can handle them. Because at our system, we end up grinding the stuff, or we pull that stuff out, and that goes to a different market anyways. But it is green, it's organic, go in the organic can.
Okay, good. And then, let's see, wasn't still clear on this. Newspapers, paper waste products, those still go in the mixed waste can?
Yeah, what we're calling the recycling can.
Okay.
Again, a young lady, she's about in the second row there, she had the question, I think, to clarify is organics and recyclables.
Yeah.
So organics, our definition is food waste and green waste. Okay. So if you use the negative thought process, that's that can. Everything else goes in this can. If it's not green waste or food waste, in that can.
Right.
Two flavors.
The food waste has to be separated from whatever container it was in. It can't be in
right,
a jar.
Because the jar is not food waste.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm saying, so if you keep it very basic, organics, everything else over here.
Okay. And let's see. Okay, so if we need a second green waste can, what's the process of doing that?
You just call us up at our office, and we'll get one delivered to you. Pretty simple. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Great presentation. Just one comment. Basically, Scott, you had mentioned about a poll of 1,000 people.
Yes.
Basically, and you seem to be justifying a lot of your decision-making on a poll of 1,000 people. I guess my objection is I want to see a poll by the voters, not by 1,000 people. We don't know who the heck they are or what they really said. I mean, that's just my comment on that. No, we would go with that. Let the polls do the voting.
Thank you for your comment. I just I'll address that. When we hired an expert pollster, and to get we wanted a number that was statistically valid, And even our pollster said, you know, if you get a number of 400, 500, that's still statistically valid. But we said, no, we want a little bit more than that. So that's why we went with 1,000. Granted, it's not everyone, but if you look at, even if you look at, let's say the election pollings, they don't poll the entire United States. They poll a couple thousand people, and they're generally right on the polls. And that's the kind of approach we took as well.
Yeah, this is just a political comment that I would say hopefully the polls for the election of your board of directors, they were elected to represent you just like your city council was or your mayor. And so I don't think they can poll every constituent every time they have to make a decision. So hopefully your board of directors are doing what you've elected them to do. Obviously, if not, then you need to talk to them directly. But hopefully that's the polling that took place, is when you elected those people to represent your thoughts when it comes to environmental issues in the city.
Hi, my name is Scott PR. I'm a field rep for Assemblyman Allen, Minnesota. So I'm going to pass on a few constituent comments that we've gotten just for your benefit. And since it is political and we didn't have anything to do with the new legislation that passed, Democratic legislation passed. You know, the comment, your poll showed about 44% were in favor of it, but it dropped by a quarter for those that weren't willing to pay extra for it. So really, you've got about a third of the people you poll that are in favor of paying extra for the service, and 2/3 that are against by your poll. It's just a different way to spin the same numbers. Now, the questions that I had, or that commented, most of them have been picked up and commented. The only one that I haven't really heard on is in Newport Beach, which CR&R just won the bid. The cost is about $11 and change per household, and it's $18 here. Does that mean that you're going to be lowering it to match Newport's? And go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, those are apples to oranges. The only rate we're guaranteeing right now is the AD processing fee. That's what I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about the rate at the home or anything like that. And Newport's very complex. Yeah, but I'm not talking about that, just so you know. I was talking about the 7150, and I was comparing that to the other cities I've been soliciting for the AD project, not the collection rate or the other programs that are going on. Also, Newport's fairly complicated. Inside of that rate, there's a transfer station, there's trucks, and there's a transition to privatization. So it's very apples to oranges to make that comparison. You know, I'd have to sit down and go through that with you, which we'll be happy to do, no problem.
So it does include, the $11 in Newport does include the transfer facility and the recycling?
The transfer station that we're physically getting from them, not transfer. We're taking over their transfer station, which is an economic benefit.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sitting down maybe later and having you educate us on it.
Yeah.
And obviously that impacts too, but the other thing is that, you know, Newport just put theirs out to bid. You guys won the bid, congratulations. Why doesn't the sand board do the same, since it hasn't really been bid in 60 years? I know that's not something CR&R wants to hear. It's probably more a question of sand board, but it's a question we get addressed to our office. So, thank you very much.
Try to address that question. As far as going out to bid, you know, it's always been a philosophical decision by the board, this board and past boards, that they believe they can get a very good rate just by negotiating with haulers. It's not a public works contract where it's legally by law you have to go out to bid. So it's just a different philosophical approach by this board and previous boards, that if we negotiate with the hauler, we can get a fair and reasonable rate. So.
Well, I have a question or comment, and that is, I like what I've heard so far today, and one thing I would like to see available to us that could help divert a lot of the things from going to the landfill and to the other processing facility is that daily I pass dozens of these chipper shredder trucks for tree branches, and I don't know where their waste particularly ends up, but whenever I see one on my street, I go try to get a couple trash cans full of it, and I put it down on my garden paths and underneath the trees where the grass won't grow, and I love it because I don't have mud on my feet and stuff like that, but I can't get enough of it. And I would like to see the city of Costa Mesa have some sort of a facility available for citizens that want to pick up that waste before it goes to a diversion area somewhere else. That if we can help divert it by putting it on our garden paths and things like that, prevent mud, I think we could prevent lots of tons of trash from going to those other places. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dan Worthington. I'm presently a commissioner of the Waste and Recycle Commission of Orange County. 17 members overseeing the 3 landfills in Orange County. We are victimized by politics when it comes to trash handling in the state of California. We have 3 operating plants in California incinerating trash. The reason they're operating in California incinerating trash is because the environmentalists could not find a way to stop them from doing what they're doing because the output of that incineration is absolutely clean. 75% of our country is incinerating trash as the most economical way to handle it. The 3 incinerating plants in our state is in downtown Long Beach, downtown Commerce, and south of Modesto. I have visited all 3 of them to see how practical the handling of that trash can be. We aren't very smart to let our politicians make decisions for us that aren't in our best interest. The idea that incinerating trash is going to pollute our atmosphere is now nonsense. It's the politicians in our state that create and try and reinvent the wheel. Where this will all go is unfortunately in the hands of the people that we elect, not the ones that we appoint. The Waste and Recycle Commission has yet to address this concept only because it's 6 years in the office. I see no reason that we need to rush to decision as to how fast we want to implement this concept. I saw the first anaerobic digester in operation in the Hemet area approximately 8 years ago. It was a question of whether it would operate and or not, and one of the other companies in Orange County called Rainbow was feeding the special material for that project. We are bound to use what the state of California and the legislature has committed us to. And I'm sorry that we have to take the most difficult possible way to handle trash. And I'm sorry that it continues to add to the cost of the taxpayer. Someday we may get a little better at it. As a 12-year member of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, and as a past chairman of the board of the Waste and Recycle Commission, I saw a lot of things that needed to be improved. My greatest part of being on the sanitary district was initiating the concept of standardized containers for the city of Costa Mesa, and then going to full automation to make trash collection not only faster, but quieter. So things can change, and hopefully people will look at the ways that we can best do this. Thank you.
I just want to, Dan is one of my first clients. We go back 25 years. But just to clarify 2 things. In Hemet, that was not an anaerobic digester, just so you know. That was a gasification system that Rainbow was experimenting with, and that's since been shut down. Incineration, probably technologically, coming from an engineering standpoint, is probably feasible. Economically, never going to happen. An incineration plant's going to cost over $250 million, and that's assuming you can get permits from the AQMD. It took us over 3 years to get permits for this, and we have 0 emissions. And I did those permits, so I know what a nightmare it was. So I don't, there's companies much bigger than Dean and our company, CR&R, and nobody's proposed incineration. I mean, these are billion-dollar companies because they just can't get the permits to operate them. They're just not economically viable. Technologically, I agree with Dan 100%. They could do it.
I believe they do it in Japan quite economically. But anyway, that's...
Well, let me correct it. Let me correct it. Because we went through this whole process a long time ago. I went to Italy, and we looked at this big plant and they had. And when it all got said and done, same in Japan, same with a lot of other, was more government control. And I said, what does this cost to run this plant? They said, we don't know. We just bill the government. So that's what they do. Their cost in Japan is over $110 a ton. And we're paying, what's the landfill now, Dean? 32. So yeah, if we were allowed to charge 110 bucks a ton, we'd be doing all kinds of fun things.
Yeah, they're more desperate, but that's not really what I wanted to ask you about. It's the practicality for us residents. If we're not allowed to use containers for organics, then that means we slop everything into this bucket that you give us, you know, the last half of the soup and the greeneries and that kind of thing. So every week we take it out, we pour it into the trash bag thing. Then we have to wash out this bucket that we're going to keep in our house for the next week. Am I getting the picture right?
Yeah, you're talking about the kitchen pail. I wouldn't recommend keep the pail full of food for a week. I think our intention was, you know, when you're prepping your food and when you're done, just put it in the pail, and then when you're done, take it out that evening and put it in the trash can, then wash it out.
Yeah. But my concern is, one, is that this goop is sitting there for a week, and not just the contamination that's occurring in that little bucket, but then how are we cleaning it out, and that's going into the ground. And the fact that we have wonderful natural predators that live in our neighborhoods, raccoons, possums, coyotes, you know.
Rats.
They like,
Don't feed them.
it comes to a point that they will get into if it's easily available. And that's, I guess, my concern is that are we creating something that is very desirable for those who are now scrounging for food in urban areas because their natural habitat has been disrupted so much?
Yeah, again, I keep going back. We designed a program that hopefully, you know, meets 99% of people's needs. But really what's going to happen with that food waste, there's going to be three options. Some people continue doing what they're doing and putting it in the trash can. They don't want the hassle factor. Other people are going to continue to put it down the garbage disposal because if they've been doing, they don't want the hassle factor. Other people are going to participate in the program and put it in our can and allow us to process it and recycle it. So it really is going to come down to the individual homeowner, how dedicated you are, how much you want to participate. Again, you know, it's not rocket science, this part of it. We're in the trash collection business. We're designing a program that hopefully meets all your needs. You know, we have different container systems in all different cities. The city of Portland does this system. I think 110,000 homes are on it. So we know it'll work, but yeah, it does take some effort, no doubt about it. But I think anything positive or environmentally intelligent takes more effort than what we've been doing. The gentleman, my Uncle Jerry here, said, you know, we used to take everything to the dump, you know, 40 years ago. And, you know, that's how it used to work. Now it's the next step. So hopefully we've at least made it feasible for the majority of people to comply and participate.
I'm surprised that no more people are encouraged to do the worming. There was one gentleman who stood up and talked about how he just carries out his greens or fruits to his worms. They're so easy pets. They don't bark. They don't. They take your and give you wonderful stuff for your garden.
Yeah, very, very good. In fact, if you didn't know, we do have it's vermicomposting. We do have vermicomposting bins available, very reasonable at our district headquarters. In fact, Javier Ochiki here, he managed that program and tell you more about it. You go on our website, learn about it. We have free composting workshops that includes vermicomposting. So please check our website. I mean, it's available. We have that for you if you want to do that.
Do you also sell the worms?
No, we don't sell the worms, unfortunately. We refer you where you can get them.
Come by my house, I'll give you all you want.
Put your dress up, please.
1975 Orange Avenue, and I'll give you a handful and probably about 300 worms in one handful. How's that?
Fantastic.
And I use this little composter right here in the middle, by the way. All my organic waste goes in that tumbler, and then I feed it to the worms. I love it. I have more fun. And the thing is, they're not like having a pet puppy or dog. They don't respond to my loving care.
We just got one, so my daughter wants some worms. We'll be over. But I wanted to ask about the fats, oil, and grease. Right now, I've been putting it in a plastic milk bottle and taking it over at Orange Coast College. Do we want to just dump it in the trash, or are you going to continue the Orange Coast College program?
I think Orange Coast continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you for participating in that program. We're glad to see it very successful. If you didn't know, at Orange Coast College, if you're frying a turkey or if you have any grease, they have bins out there where you can just dump your grease, and that grease is turned into recyclable materials. Believe it or not, we have a contractor that comes in, he picks it up, and they recycle into fuel. They recycle other products, so please take advantage of that. But you can, as Mike says, if you don't want to go to OCC, you can dump your grease into the green or organic cart. Right? I mean, it's very simple.
Can you set it in a milk carton in the organic carton?
No, you're going to have to. No, unfortunately, we're not there yet. You're going to just have to pour it in there. So you have two options. You can take the OCC or just put it in your organic carton.
Just real quick, one gentleman touched on it a bit. When you have a yard that is overgrown occasionally, a couple of times a year, we will overwhelm the one container. What would be the arrangements for, even if we had two? I know a couple of times a year my wife and I trim all our trees and bushes and branches and do more than what our gardeners does. What would be the suggestion for when we overwhelm them? We'd like to still have the green go to the green.
Well, I'll give you the layman's answer. What I do, I put in a few pounds a week, and takes me a couple times, and it's done. I don't know if that's.
So we still got the bins? You want to come up? Yeah.
Spread it out.
I'm going to have Dean Ruffridge, the Senior Vice President, answer that question.
Hi, my name is Dean Ruffridge, and actually we started a really, I think, a great program with the district about 3 or 4 years ago. And we will supply to you a 3 cubic yard bin, like a bin behind a grocery store or behind an apartment, for green waste only. And the deal, or the part of our contract, is that we charge you half the normal price. So if it's all green waste. So if you have that one time a year, you can order one of these large bins. We'll come out and we'll deliver it, and we'll pick it up for nothing. And we'll charge you half of the normal price, which I think is about $35. So it's a pretty inexpensive way to get rid of a lot of green waste.
So only about 2 hours here. Any more questions? Yeah, one more.
Sorry I came in a little late, so I'm not sure what the whole program. Came in expecting this to be like a program to save money or something. Apparently it's just for environmental benefits.
Well, there is opportunity to save money if you have 3 mixed waste containers or more. If you have 3, then we're charging $96 a year for that. So you'll get rid of that and use organic. So there's savings there. But if you have according to two current containers right now,
it's going to cost us more money.
It will cost. Yes, it does cost more.
So the only benefits are the whole program are environmental benefits.
No, I'd say you have economic benefits over the long term. Not today, no. It's like I said, being candid with you guys, it's $1.81 a month. That's the worst case. The council or the district may not implement that right away. They may phase it out over time or implement it in. But basically, we believe it's the cheapest alternative based on the new regulations that are coming down.
Benefits come from reduced landfill use?
Yeah, over time.
And that's the only place it comes from?
What's that again?
That's the only place the economic benefits come from, is reduced landfill use?
No, we've netted out, like I said, the other young lady asked, we netted out the savings from the gas, from the fertilizer and all that. But yeah, it's incrementally, it costs more. It costs more to do something, yes.
How much less landfill will be used with the program?
Well, hopefully it's another 25%, because we're trying to get to 75.
What acreage of land is going to be reduced?
Oh, I don't know. I can't do the math in my head.
You have a figure?
No, not acreage, no. Just by tons.
Just by volume or tons, but that becomes see, I'm trying to figure out how much, if we're getting cost, we're gonna pay more money to the city.
Yes.
And the large majority of people are gonna pay more money.
That's correct.
So there'll be more money going into the city, going into wherever we're paying it. How much reduced land use are we getting for that money?
Well, it said, let's put it this way. If everybody complies with the new law, the landfills will last 25% longer. That's all I can say, the math I can do in my head today.
You know, you have landfills, you have a volume of trash becomes a certain amount of acreage used in landfills, so you can reduce the volume, can immediately be calculated as how much land you produce. I'm just trying to find out how much the cost is. What are we paying for? Are we getting very much actual reduced landfill use or not very much?
25%. So if the landfill's gonna last 20 years, it would last 25 years.
What is the total amount that you'd expect this?
I don't know that number here, standing here.
I mean, the total amount that people be paying.
$1.81 per resident.
I mean, the total amount going to the city or the extra.
I don't know that number in my head, I apologize.
Wait, Nancy, are you talking about the total for the entire program?
Yeah, for the whole program, that people are paying more.
It's going to be an additional $500,000 a year.
Okay. Well now, you're paying $500,000 in, that would be normally going into the economy for jobs and things. Instead, it's going into this, and we're getting a benefit, 25% reduced, but we don't know how much that is or what that is. You know, that doesn't sound like it's any sort of great benefit if you don't have a figure and how important that land is, and we're losing $500,000 out of the regular economy that people are paying money into anyway for jobs.
Yeah, you make a good point, and quite honestly, we've never really considered doing a calculation. It's something my staff can do. We can calculate, okay, we're going to save this, we're going to do this much of waste from the landfill, so how much landfill space are we saving at the landfill, and how much longer can that landfill last?
What's the cost of the land? Are we getting a good deal, or is this an outrageous?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We can look in that.
We'll never be able to open a new landfill.
Well, yeah, I read, many years ago I read, but most of the problem with landfills is just permitting issue. In other words, there's a lot of unused land. It's just largely a government permitting issue.
Well, it's not just a permit issue, it's an environment issue. I don't know if you've got here later. Hey, go back to the next slide here. Right here, the Gregory Canyon, if you see this slide, the Gregory Canyon in San Diego County, it cost them $67 million to fight 19 lawsuits. It's taken 20 years. They still haven't built one. So I think the point we're trying to say is that, and you heard from the residents, that we're not going to find another landfill in Orange County. They're just not going to happen. It won't happen. It won't happen.
So you'll be trucking it someplace else. Eventually, be trucking it a longer distance.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Hopefully trucking less because we're diverting.
Eventually, you'll be doing it 25 years and then 20 years for $500,000 or whatever it is. Okay. So eventually, be tracking farther and farther. You know the cost of that will be the increased cost.
20 years out?
Yeah, whatever. No. Are we getting anything anywhere near that benefit for the $500,000 a year, or whatever it is we're paying? Just want to know if getting cost benefit is a good idea, and I don't hear any figures you even know.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand the question. The cost benefit. As we said earlier, there is a cost to the program. There's always going to be a cost to recycle more. The benefit is an environmental benefit.
That's right. It's not really a monetary.
It's an environmental benefit.
If people are generally in favor of whatever theoretically good, it's good, and the money doesn't really come into it.
Right. It's you're having a benefit in air because LNG or RNG. The benefit of extending the landfill, as I mentioned earlier, the landfill in Brea is going to close 15 years. Maybe we can help extend that longer.
It's either you bring up landfill, but then it becomes okay. How much land you save, and you don't know. Okay, so there's theoretical benefit somewhere else in the environment, but you don't know, exactly what that is, LG or whatever. How harmful is that? But we're paying $500,000 a year extra, and it's pie in the sky. It's a nice idea. We feel good, but there's no. I have a figure here for how much we're saving, and in land you don't have what we save. Exact figure, what we're saving, and other things you don't have. How can you be in favor of these things? For a huge amount of money. I have a question about the practicality of the thing. Again, I came in late, not completely sure about the program, but is it?
Come in late and ask the same questions that we
all
sat here.
Sit down.
I think it's right that you're able to come in and start. They've explained in detail to us. all of these things.
But they still don't have the figures. They still don't have the figures.
Well, you're asking figures for like.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, that's right.
Give me your name and we'll call you. You can come meet with us at HQ and we'll sit down one-on-one.
I get it. So a 30-year mortgage, you figure for 30 years, they should have the same thing here for 30 years.
He's offered it to you personally.
Right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Leave me your name and number, and we'll contact you, and we can have one-on-one chat, and we can go over this with you again. You know, we can go through this, and you made some good points about the landfill and what that costs. Well, we can look and try to get that number for you.
Thank you. No problem.
One thing that my friend just made a point is, are we going to be able to have plastic bags to line the trash cans anymore?
For the trash or for the
yeah,
organics?
Well, it looks like everything, like when you're putting everything into the trash, you know, you're, well, it's a green waste. Okay, you're going to have the green waste, right?
Yeah.
And that's all going to be garden stuff and all that.
Right. Correct.
And then you're going to have the organics, which is all the stuff in the kitchen, right?
Right.
And so are you going to be able to line the trash can with the...
Oh, you mean like the kitchen pail?
Yeah.
No,
not the kitchen pail. But, you know, the stuff where you just throw the trash.
Can you bag it and put it in the
Well, I'll let you
the recyclables? The
not.
Well, you're having the recycling program, all the food waste and all that stuff. I mean, if you're just going to throw that into the big
green can.
Yeah, the green can. Yes.
This is all for the green can.
Yes.
Yes. With the branches and stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so then you don't have to worry about the animals getting in there and it being all stinky and stuff.
As long as you keep the lid shut, it should be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
I'm a resident in Costa Mesa for 40 years. I think this is great. I have, for the past 2 years, received one of the trash cans that locks.
Okay.
Is one for the, what they're talking about, the animals will get in. Is that possible to get the lock on that trash can also?
It's something we can explore. The reason for the lockable ones is for really for two things. Is to prevent from stealing the recyclables, because that's what, you see scavengers going in. I don't think you're going to find people going into green waste to steal food and organics. And I think it's going to be, I know there were some issues with animals. Those are pretty big containers. It's going to be pretty hard for an animal to tip that over. I mean, maybe a bear would tip it over. We live out in Claremont.
Have you seen the size of some of the raccoons in Kentucky?
Apparently, maybe I haven't. I know
We got one that's at least 35 pounds.
Okay. Well, you got to figure you're putting food waste, and green waste gets heavy, and so you're putting all that stuff in there. I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty hard for someone to get there. But if that is an issue, if you're having experience with that, we can definitely explore a lockable container. I mean, because the way it opens, it's gravity, so when it opens it up, the lid automatically opens. So they don't have to get out and unlock it. You can just put it in there and it unlocks. So it's something we can explore.
Thank you.
Hi there. A couple questions. One, when we talk about that percent of diversion, what's the base year they use for that they figured it from, where it now has to be 70% diversion, or?
It goes back, because that base year was adopted in 2000, year 2000. So that's the base number that they're looking at. So you have to divert the 50-70%, and I don't know off the top of my head what that is.
Okay, but there was a base year that they're always talking about.
Yeah, it was 2000, year 2000.
The second comment, before, a few years ago, when starting to do things like composting, like recycling, we have a household of 6 people. We had a tough time getting stuff in a big yard, had a tough time getting stuff into 3 90-gallon cans. And I think when the program started with the standard containers, we got a 60-gallon one dumped off at our step and we about fell over. And I think you guys actually changed that to allow like the basic one to be a 90, or I forget. But going back to that question for people, and we're probably preaching to the choir, a lot of us are already sensitive to diverting and recycling and composting and all that. But one way that could help the consumers with a cost benefit, instead of making the norm being 2 90-gallon cans, cut that back, and the people that aren't already conscious of it are going to have to find a way to reduce and cut back and do some recycling and composting of their waste already. And that way it would also be a financial benefit to the district by getting more revenue from people that aren't taking advantage of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I think we looked at that. I think originally we thought we were, okay, everyone has those 2 cans, so let's take one away and give them the green waste. And we're thinking, well, we might get a lot of resistance to that because people love their 2 cans. And that's why I said earlier, let's just keep the 2 cans, give them the green waste, and then once they start participating in the program, they're going to realize, hey, I don't need this 2nd can.
Well, you just get it. You got to make this program, all these programs, trendy. You know, people don't have to drive $80,000 cars to get basically from here to there, but why do they do it? Because it's a trendy thing to do. You want to be seen in that car because it's the thing to do. You know, we need to make this type of program the trendy thing to do in our society, and if you do that, people will put up that resistance. We went from that, as I mentioned before, originally 3 90-gallon cans. We're now down where we have 2, but sometimes we're only putting out 1 or ready to get rid of 1 of those. So it's easy if you just do basic stuff to cut back and take some advantage of those recycling options for all of us here. I think we're always sensitive to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Just one quick question here. The $1.81 figure I keep hearing, that's per month, is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Per month, per household,
correct,
et cetera. But that appears on our tax, property tax.
Right. But it's an annual.
Yeah, it's kind of transparent to what we actually pay for the trash and stuff.
Yeah.
Except for the once a year that we look at our tax bill, maybe twice, if we pay it twice a year. You know, we really don't know what our trash is costing us. So.
Yeah, it's charged on an annual basis. It's like $219 a year, and we always break it down monthly because that seems to be how we survey, benchmark other organizations. Because a lot of other cities, they get a bill from their hauler, where there's an added cost for that mailing, and then some people don't pay the bill, so then there's a collection cost. We're in the luck we don't do that. It's on the tax bill, but we always break down monthly so you can do some nice benchmarkings. That's why we do it.
Scott, are we going to maintain these 2 presentations on the website as you presently have?
Yes, we will. We will. And maybe if I could put the link of this presentation on there, maybe that's a possibility. The video. Yeah, maybe I can put the link of it's being videoed right now. I can put that on our website as well.
I just have a quick comment. I want to compliment, I was at the last meeting in December, which was a little quite chaotic.
Exciting. It's called exciting.
Yes,
it was. Exciting.
So I think you should keep this format. It works out really well. Hold your questions to the end, because last time you had questions, everything you said immediately after there were 10 questions, so it kind of diluted your message. So I want to compliment you on changing it, and I think you should keep the format as it is.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions?
Their machine broke down, so you're going to have to either get it off the website or...
Get a website. We'll have some available at our HQ office, Director. Sure, or you know, you get my business cards back there. You can call me. Or I'll have some, definitely have some in the lobby available to pick some up. It'll be on the website to download. We'll still be here after tonight. If you have any more questions to approach us, please feel free. We're here to answer all your concerns and questions. And great, thank you very much for spending your morning here. Thank you. Thank you.